Hello, welcome back to my little corner of the internet. I wanted to talk about a transit that's happening now. It kicked in on the 25th of March at around 4:20 a.m. PST, Pacific Standard Time, which is my time zone. I live in California in the US. So this transit is Mars in Cancer. I was kind of looking at it and I wanted to make a video talking about what I think will potentially happen. As always, with astrology, I don't believe specifically in prediction. I believe that astrology is a lot like the weather, and we can only really see the elements of an upcoming situation, or we can only really see energies that might affect us. So that being said, these are just my thoughts on what could happen. Nothing is set in stone. So Mars in Cancer, I had to think about it. It's kind of a tricky placement because Mars is in fall when it's in Cancer. And what does it mean when a planet is in fall? It means that the expression of that planet is hindered. It is clumsy. It is not at its full operating authenticity. So Mars, the planet of war, the planet of aggression and pursuing what it is that we desire, entered Cancer, which is the sign of really being emotionally receptive. Cancer is all about the things that we nurture away from the public eye. Cancer is the emotional root of everything. I always see it as like Cancer being the point from which all paths stem outward. It's our center, the center of our psyche and our being. So it's a really touchy sign. It's vulnerable, it's sensitive, it's really the antithesis of Mars. I think the emotional experience while Mars is in Cancer can get rough. It can be difficult to process because Mars is reactive. And when Mars, or when any planet is in a sign, it has to adapt. And sometimes it's really easy for it to adapt because either it's exalted, which means it rises above even its domicile. Domicile is where it lives. Domicile is the home sign of a planet. But for this instance, when Mars is going to be in fall, it really has to adapt to the elements of the sign that it's in, which is Cancer in this case. It really might struggle to get along with how that sign dictates how it should behave. So with Mars in Cancer, we might feel extra reactive. We might feel major ups and downs. It's just a really messy emotional experience. Another thing I feel like might come up during this transit is the desire to kind of stay hidden and kind of just work things out instead of the way that Mars usually manifests. If it's positively aspected and it's strong, Mars usually propels us forward and it has us wanting more of life. And that's, I think, why it's a good ruler for Scorpio, because Scorpio is about survival and overcoming transcendence, and that's a really big element of Mars. It makes us have a thirst for life and life experiences. But in Cancer, everything is kind of internalized. not everything. I mean, Cancer is a cardinal sign, so... But with Cancer, the go-getting energy, in my opinion, is aimed at security, finding a comfortable place to live and nurturing that sphere of life at all costs. So with Mars in Cancer, we might feel inclined to kind of hunker in and be overly comfortable. We might feel like we don't want to be seen as much because there's going to be a motivation potentially to work stuff out emotionally. And another way that that can manifest with all the internal energy of Cancer is the processing of old wounds, stuff that happened in the past. That is another element of Cancer. It's correlated to the past, history, things that have come before. That's why it is related to our ancestors, because it's everything that came before. So having to really process old wounds, old battles, things that we've had to fight for that didn't come easily, because those are Martian things. That may be a focus during this transit, but also dealing with familial family issues, family resentments, family arguments, because Cancer is family. So we might have to deal with a lot of ancestral wounding. Let's see, what else did I see? Oh, okay. Here's another big aspect of Cancer. Cancer is, for the most part, about permanence. It's literally the center of everything. That's why it is opposite the 10th house. The 10th house is permanence as well, but it's in a way different way. The 10th house is our contributions to the outside world, to the things that we accomplish in the limelight. It is everything that we want to be recognized for. Whereas Cancer is kind of everything that we're already experiencing. It is our hidden side, our privacy, our private life, our home life. So it's kind of our contribution to family, to the home, to things that are just not as visible, but are still severely important. So yeah, the aspect of permanence, seeking things that will last, seeking ways in which we can settle down and really fully build roots. We might feel an itch to really understand where we belong, to really understand who and what and where to build our home with, you know, where we want to be in the long term, in the longest term sense possible. That sounds kind of weird, but so there might be a major focus on the home life. Some of us might move during this transit. Some of us might truly be feeling a sense of increasing urgency around finding a partner, finding someone to build a life with. But overall, it's a big focus on emotional stability, emotional support, empathy, nurturing, really caring for the self and the immediate sphere of life. I think a lot of us are projected outward in our vision, and it's not really encouraged to focus within as much. We're always trying to keep it together in an external sense, and I think transits like this can help us really do a major overhaul of our emotional world. Another interesting thing about Cancer is that it represents a lot of cultural things. To me, it's similar to Sagittarius in that way. Sagittarius represents everything that's foreign, like foreign cultures, traveling, philosophy from other lands, you know, religion, beliefs. Cancer kind of shares that, but it's more of like the culture that comes from the ancestral line. So for some of us, there might be a newly found or reinvigorated desire to really delve into our culture, feel a sense of pride for our ancestry and our heritage. I just thought that was something to mention. Now I want to talk about what this transit may look like. I think something that can be done is looking at the aspects that form at the very beginning of a transit like this. So for one thing, I will put a chart somewhere, probably right here. So for one thing, when Mars went to exact zero, which is what I call it exact zero. It's the ingress. It's when Mars left Gemini, which felt like Mars was going to be in Gemini for effing ever. Mars left Gemini and it's going into Cancer, and that is called an ingress. So when that happened, which was on the 25th of March at 4:20, Mars, at the time of its ingress into Cancer, was in a square with the Sun. So squares are challenging. Squares they can be divisive, they can bring derision. They're basically a conflicting between two signs and two planets. That's what a square is, and it can bring discomfort. And Mars squaring the Sun is a really challenging aspect when we want to look at our ability to compromise, to get along really well with others. The Sun also has a lot to do with pride and ego. So I feel like there's going to be some stuff coming up around ego, around pride, self-esteem, confidence. We may be reactive in the sense of just wanting to be combustive, be argumentative. It's possible. And it's interesting because the Sun correlates to authority. So we may feel a sense of discomfort around the idea of authority at this time. We may feel like things get in our way when it comes to our sense of mission and what we want to accomplish. With the Sun also being in Aries, that's a really stubborn combination. And they're two cardinal signs always square, but a cardinal square, it's going to be really hard potentially to recognize when we need to back off. I think there's also the potential for burnout, really overdoing things. I think it would be good to pay attention to when we need to slow down, especially with the emotional component of Cancer. Refusing to rest when we need to rest can lead to emotional outbursts and difficulties. So there's that. Then we have Mars with it's in an in conjunction with Pluto. An in conjunction is when two planets just cannot understand each other. It's basically two things that have to be compartmentalized. It's either or. There's no blending, there's no synthesis. It's really kind of juggling between one thing and the next. It's kind of the way to resolve an in conjunction, possibly. So when Mars went to exact zero in Cancer, it formed an in conjunction to Pluto. And it's interesting because these are both rulers of Scorpio, with Mars being the traditional ruler and Pluto being the modern ruler of Scorpio. So these are themes regarding regeneration, the warrior spirit. Mars is the warrior within. themes of powerlessness, manipulation, control. Those are Plutonian themes. What did I say about this specifically? I have it written down. Here's what I said in my notes. I'm trying not to just read my notes. It's kind of hard, but here's what I said in my notes. I will read. Inconjunctions can be destabilizing as they represent energies that just cannot be synthesized and can often only be compartmentalized. Mars and Pluto are both rulers of Scorpio. Both represent overcoming insurmountable odds. Both represent power struggles. Both also represent anger. They are the very primal facets of our psychology. I really believe Pluto is it's an incredibly psychological planet. So there could be something there about deep-rooted anger. During the Mars and Cancer transit, there could be perceived offenses that have us wavering. We may struggle between choosing to stay hidden and secure and going for the next big thing that's a part of the metaphorical or maybe literal homesteads we're building in the world. So really letting reactions and deeply held subconscious issues hold us back from the permanence that we're seeking in life. There could be kind of a seesaw happening. We'll see. The concept of a legacy may feel extra crucial during this placement, especially from the standpoint of having a safe and nurturing life that's being lived. Remember, Cancer is what it is we want to nurture emotionally and whatnot. Permanence may be desirable but difficult to understand, and views on it may need transformation. So it's like what forever looks like to us from one moment will change, as time goes on. It's kind of what I was trying to say. Our next forever thing may be something we never even realized. Maybe that will come up too. Uncertainty can be something that's difficult to deal with during this transit. That is especially true, I think, because at exact 0, we had the moon in Taurus. And Taurus is even more about permanence than Cancer. Taurus is everything that is predictable, comfortable, drama-free. So having Cancer's ruler, the moon, in Taurus, it could make us very inflexible emotionally. We may feel like, I know what I want what I want, but a lot of it may be just wanting to be secure at all costs. That's what Taurus energy really does. It does not like change, and change is a big element coming through for this transit with that Pluto energy, but Taurus hates change. We may feel like settling down into what already is more deeply than really wanting to conquer the world. It's really bizarre because Mars is all about conquer, but in Cancer, we may just feel like we don't want to branch out. If it's going to be messy or uncomfortable or scary, we may feel more like hiding from certain things. And then I said, this placement, which is the moon in Taurus during Mars's ingress into Cancer, this placement seems like it could be very me and my own, which means the idea of family will likely come up, and there could be battles fought in the family sphere, or disagreements around the subject of family, something that can play out in a million different ways. So with Taurus's inflexibility and Cancer's connection to family, I felt like maybe, I don't know, we might experience themes of clannishness, like very much, these are my people, this is my person, and everybody else can kind of fend for themselves, potentially. Just a very stubborn energy. Hopefully that makes sense. Taurus is also pretty tightly correlated to work and money, and there may be a clearer picture that we're striving for of those things when Mars is in Cancer. So the thing we've always wanted to do for money, we may be able to process that more emotionally and understand it in a way that helps us achieve it. Then, to add to more fear of change, we have the Taurus moon. Remember, this is all for the moment that Mars went into exact zero in Cancer. The Taurus moon was conjunct Uranus, and what does Uranus do? Uranus is a destabilizing force. It uproots things. It creates shocking turns of events. It also can represent separation. It's really disorganizing, but what it does is it yanks us out of our comfort zone where we can get stuck. And I said, with the moon being ruler of Cancer, there could be some disturbances in the home. Oh yeah, because Cancer is the home. That really clarify how the home sphere needs adjusting. Uranus represents uprooting, which is a terrifying thing for Cancer and those with heavy Cancer energy. There could also be a wild experience with the emotions. I find that Uranus moons, like either in transit or by placement, they can create a really unpredictable emotional experience, and emotional reactions can come like that. Boom, boom, boom. Major ups and downs seem to be hinting toward their upcoming existence through this transit, as Uranus makes it difficult to hold on to anything. So yeah, we might feel like we want to just hold on, but as always with life, even outside of astrology, it's obvious that life has a way of totally changing things up. But during this transit, we may feel that a lot more. Then we got Moon in a sextile with Neptune. When Mars went to ingress into Cancer, Moon was in a sextile with Neptune, and sextiles are like little doorways that open. They're like opportunities that we can reach for. They're a lot less obvious than a trine, but they are harmonious in themselves. But with a sextile, we might need to work a little bit more to understand or really embrace the positivity that they bring, whereas a trine is like, here you go. A trine is really in your face and you don't have to work for it. With the moon sextile Neptune aspect, I got that we will feel heightened intuition in terms of where to go next, in terms of what the next or what the big thing is that we want in terms of stability, security, emotional fulfillment. Our antennas may extend a little bit and we can start to kind of feel out what is the right way to go. Neptune energy can help us be more accommodating, something needed when we look at Martian energy. That's good because we have that Mars square Sun aspect, which can be really uncompromising, in my opinion. So having Neptune kind of come in to a mild extent seems sort of positive. Neptune can help us be more accommodating and receptive to the good things in life. Oh yeah, that's important because we're going to need, I think in life in general, we need to believe that good things can happen, that good things will happen, and that we deserve good things. And with Neptune, there really are the rose-tinted glasses. Neptune can help us feel like good things are coming, even though it has its downsides, it has its bad sides as well. The Taurus moon seeks out value and valuable things, while Neptune gives an assisted boost that helps us see that such things are possible to obtain, the good things in life, you know? The downside to any Neptune moon aspect, though, is the potential for being too submerged in the emotional experience, which is something that might happen on its own with Mars in Cancer, while letting tangible details fall by the wayside. Luckily, Taurus energy is so grounding, and staying in touch with what's truly important may not be too impeded by this aspect. And now I have one more aspect I want to talk about, and that is Venus being conjunct Uranus right at Mars, 0 degrees Cancer. So Venus, trying to make this, I call it the breadcrumb of rulerships. It's very hard for me to figure out how to explain. It's like one thing is ruled by something, which is ruled by another thing, which is like ruled by this, and then you follow the trail. We have the moon in Cancer, or no, we have Cancer, which is the sign we're focusing on. Cancer is ruled by the moon. The moon is in Taurus at the moment that Mars goes into Cancer. I know, it's so confusing. The moon is in Taurus. Taurus is ruled by Venus. So we want to look at Venus to understand more about how this aspect can play out. And Venus is our relationships. It is our love of life, our enjoyment of life. It's really a socially oriented planet. And it's gonna be, or it is, I think it already, where is it now? I forget. But at the time, it was conjunct Uranus, which represents the uprooting, potentially, of relationships, separating certain bonds, or reconfiguring certain bonds, not reorganizing. Uranus is revolutionizing. So we have the revolutionizing energy of Uranus coming in and trying to blend. That's a conjunction. It's two planets trying to blend. With Venus, which is our relationship. This is an aspect that represents overhauling social connectivity. Venus is correlated to our reception of one another, while Uranus can tie into beliefs to some degree, because Uranus is about enlightenment. It's all about changing perspective. It really is a game changer. I feel like it also represents the height of intellect in some sense. What else we got? Uranus is connected to the higher spheres of the mind, which I just said, somewhat similar to Jupiter in the 9th house. It's known for having a connection to sudden inspiration and enlightenment. It's the aspiration toward higher ideals and has us striving for bigger and better as a collective. I always see Uranus and Aquarius, in a lot of respects, as the potential for human nature as a whole. The potential that humans have for being brilliant and majorly intelligent, really being genius, innovative, adaptive, all these things. We may really be focused on finding our sense of belonging in idealistic community during the Mars in Cancer transit, because Uranus is it can be seen as a uniting force, especially in the context of it being Aquarius's modern ruler, and Aquarius is about unity. Aquarius is about community. So this could be considered in an emotional sense, really looking at the community aspect of life and thinking, where do I belong? That kind of thing. We might feel really pushed. When we deal with Cancer and Taurus energies, the focus is on permanence and stability. So this transit could benefit in that it helps us find a permanent sense of belonging somehow in the social sphere. So basically finding our people, finding our tribe, that, as you could say, as a lot of people say nowadays. I think that is everything that I wanted to say. I appreciate anybody who watches this. I don't think anybody really will. I have some amazing friends that watch, and I appreciate you and I love you. And anybody who watches this that I don't know, you're amazing. I appreciate it. It means a lot, and I will be back with another video. I don't know when, And I don't know about what yet, but I'll figure it out. All right. Thanks. Bye.